Hi, Claire.
Hello,
How are you today?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good, good. So, you are one of the finalists of INTS 499, the Capstone Experience in International Studies. And I want to keep this as a testimony. It's going to be a historical document because it's the first recording through Zoom because of the conditions of the coronavirus crisis situation. So, by the way, I communicated with some of my other students in public relations campaigns earlier, and I recorded their presentations. So there's nothing to it. I
Okay.
understand that you can relate personally to the research that you put together, and it's called the Australian Bushfires, an Indigenous and Western Response, with a focus on global communication and public relations tactics. I am very much interested in visual communication presentations, so that's what you're going to do. So I'll let you speak.
All right. Okay, so here I go. Again, I'm very nervous, so hopefully,
Don't be. It's just a communication between me and you, and this is your personal research.
all right. So, hello there. My name is Claire DiLorenzo, and I'm an international studies student. My career as an international studies student has culminated to this research, the Australian bushfires and Indigenous and Western response, with a focus on global communication and public relations tactics. The topic I decided to explore, I could have written and researched about indefinitely, but I am hoping this project highlights and the various facets that piqued my interest and acted as an opportune way to showcase my studies. So the first slide here discusses what happened. In June of 2019, the bushfires began. Not typical, as this is the colder season, but because it was following a long drought. This turned into what is widely known as the 2019-2020 bushfires, unprecedented to any in Australia's written record. The bushfires met the peak and most dangerous in December 2019 and January 2020, although many of the bushfires burned hotter than the average yearly bout of fires. What we do know now is that 1.5 billion estimated animals died, 18 plus million hectares burned, 2,500 homes destroyed, and 34 known people have passed away. So it is important to understand what a bushfire is. It is a type of wildfire that burns through scrub and bushlands. So bush and scrubland is typical to Australia. There's a lot of it's quite dry, and it's what you find on the ground through what you would think is the outback almost, and throughout the forest floor. Bushfires are not exclusive to Australia. They are typical of places with similar landscapes, and you'll find that in places throughout Africa, and some places in South America. So bushfires are common in the warmer months of the year, often fueled by drought, low humidity, high temperature, and dry plant life. In Australia, there are many plants that have adapted to bushfires, such as the eucalyptus tree. Eucalyptus trees are filled with oil that combust and spread the bushfires even further. So when a bushfire is coming and a eucalyptus tree ignites, it sprays the fuel, so the oil, and makes it spread even further. So it's like an accelerant. And while these trees are fantastic for animals such as koalas, because koalas get their food from eucalyptus leaves, they do cause the bushfires to burn hotter and spread faster than any other vegetation. So there are many causes of bushfires, and there are quite a few theories as to what caused the 2019-2020 bushfires. There are various environmental factors that affect a bushfire, whether a bushfire may start. Again, these include favorable conditions such as low humidity, high temperatures, and drought. There's also a suggestion that land clearing and development are factors, as people plant invasive plants, and national parks maintain plants that are prone to fires, such as eucalyptus. Humans are a major cause of bushfires, whether accidentally or purposefully. typically you find out that there are some kids playing and accidentally lit a fire that got out of control. There are instances where campfires become uncontrolled and discarded cigarettes, or the sun shining on a broken piece of glass. The most common natural cause, sorry, is from dry lightning. For reference, excuse me, sorry. This is what happens when you present from home. For reference, dry lightning comes from a thunderstorm that produces thunder and lightning, but the rain evaporates before reaching the ground. So it's a dry thunderstorm. A lot of experts claim that the 2019-2020 bushfires were directly caused by global warming, and that is an example of what is coming if humanity does not take immediate and swift action.
No problem.
Sorry.
No problem.
He's making history. So the bushfire zones, and in this image you can see this is a satellite image from above New South Wales during peak bushfires. It's pretty incredible to see the smoke and the fires. It's just incredible. There were many areas that were impacted by the bushfires. These included the Northern Territory, the Northern Territory, Tasmania, South Australia, Victoria, Queensland, and New South Wales. So you're looking at the top of Australia all the way down the east coast and coming around the bottom and halfway across. So it's amazing how much was affected. The worst affected state was New South Wales. So people can get an idea of where that is. Sydney and Byron Bay are in New South Wales, and that is located in southeastern Australia. So in New South Wales, they experienced the worst fires that they've had in over 25 years. They did have one instance where the fires got out of control, but this incident was much more widespread and many more people were affected. These bushfires are not the norm, whereas general bushfires are. Again, these fires burn hotter and more extensively than in any other state has had. They experienced hundreds of bushfires at any given time, and New South Wales is considered Australia's most populous state. Darling, I need to have this. So you can see how concerning this scenario was. Okay, you can have this. Over here. Come over here. I'm sorry. His dad's trying to get home as fast as he can, but he hasn't quite made it in time.
Right, no problem.
So okay, now we're in Victoria, and you can see in these images, like, so a lot of these images were pulled from news sources, you know, throughout the bushfires, and these are just, you know, amazing examples of how much the country was torn through. Like in this image right here, that you can see in the background of the New South Wales sign. This was like lush and forest and looked like jungle, and now it looks like this. It's just incredibly devastating. And then you can see in this image here, the red glow, it looks almost peaceful, like you're at sunset or something, but that's actually from the fires. So it's eerily beautiful that you can see there. So in Victoria, people were warned that there was a particularly bad bushfire season coming. But I don't think people quite expected the true extent of what happened. Many rural bushfire services throughout Australia, no baby, thank you, we'll try to get people to create a bushfire survival plan, which is very important because, you know, in general, like I said, bushfires are common. They want people to have like an escape route or plan, almost like we have when it comes to tornadoes and things like that. But in this instance, they want people to make sure that they have an escape route and unfortunately, a lot of people underestimate what's going to happen. So thank you. Here's your ball. Um, the bushfires throughout Australia were unpredictable due to the rapidly changing winds. And at one point toward the end of the fires, brown rain started pouring. And this was due to the smoke and pollution in the air, just pouring down brown rain. Like the entire state was covered in it. Okay, so this slide is Queensland, and Queensland has had much of the same conditions as the other states mentioned: extended drought, low humidity, and high temperatures. Both Queensland and New South Wales are home to some of the world's few rainforests. And I don't think a lot of people realise that Australia does have rainforests. For example, the mountain that I lived on before I moved was a rainforest mountain called Mount Tamborine. And it's so beautiful. And luckily, the mountain that I lived on was untouched. My dad's property was untouched. But the mountain next door, which is so the mountain is part of a chain of mountains that was a super volcano millions of years ago. And it is called Bowes Desert Shire, or the Scenic Rim. And the mountain that is next to the mountain that I lived on as part of this chain was burnt down. And this contained Lamington National Park, an absolutely beautiful place that's been a heritage spot for nearly 100 years, and it's completely gone. So you can see, how real it is. And I know it's not necessarily real for people that aren't right there, but I spent my childhood going to these places and they're gone. So it was terrifying to learn that the fires were as close to my dad's house as they were. But typically rainforest is fairly fire resistant, as opposed to eucalyptus forest, the main accelerant of the bushfires. Though these types of forests can overlap, so you can find the eucalyptus and rainforest merging and creating a more opportune environment for bushfires to ignite. When these types of forests overlaps, it heightens the fuel loads, so makes it more combustible. 80% of the Blue Mountains World Heritage Area, which is in New South Wales, and more than 50% of Gondwana World Heritage rainforests have burned as well, and those are in Queensland. So it's just unbelievable what they're experiencing. And in this image, you can see the fires going right up the trees, and you can see all the dryness in this, so it makes it really easy for these fires to spread. It's just incredible. Okay, so the aftermath. So the scientists can't be sure of the true extent of the 2019-2020 bushfires quite yet, but what they do know is that 1.5 billion animals perished, 2,500 homes were destroyed, and at least 34 people died, as well as the 18 plus hectares of land destroyed. No, darling. Here, you can have this one. Here, you can have this one. And here's your ball. So because the fires burned much hotter and moved faster than the typical bushfire, many animals were unable to flee or hide from the fires. Typically, bushfires are small enough for animals to escape and for the native flora and fauna to recover quickly. So with that, bushfires tend to be a bit more slow burning than a typical wildfire. I know, hello. And like I said, because they're so common in Australia, a lot of the animals and plants have adapted. Sweet pea. Sweet pea. Yeah, just say hello. Say hello.
Hello.
So because of the because a lot of the indigenous animals and plants have have learned to adapt to bushfires, so they know how to handle it when they come along. But in this instance, because they move so fast and burn so quickly that animals were unable to escape, and if they did, they were injured, and the plants were just absolutely destroyed as well. So not only the habitat's gone, the food sources are gone, they're displaced, and it's not a good situation for them. So again, yeah, typical bushfires are small enough for animals to escape, and the native flora and fauna to recover quickly. More than half of Australia's yearly carbon emissions output was released due to these fires, which is just astronomical. There will be a much longer rebound and recovery process after this disaster event. Okay, so that just kind of goes over, and all these pictures you see, I mean, like you can see here, this kangaroo is very happily getting water poured on it. No, darling, please stop pressing the buttons. I know. He's getting annoyed at me. And then in this image, you can see the charred landscape. These kangaroos, they're just kind of standing there like, what do we do now? What do we do?
Right.
So now we're moving into the visual campaigns. This image here that you can see is just another one of the many images that were released due to the from the bushfires. As you can see, he was a volunteer firefighter helping rescue this koala, and it really just shows the community and the effort that the average person put in to try and help fight these fires. We're not having Bobo right now, okay? You can have Bobo in a minute. So in this one, so for the visual campaigns, the first I decided to highlight was this image of a kangaroo escaping the inferno. This image was provided by the New York Times as a way to bring awareness to the bushfires with information of the disaster and how those around the world could help by donating to the various listed charitable organizations. I think it's important to point out that many of these images were released pertaining to the bushfires, but weren't provided initially as part of a campaign, but many organizations utilize them to bring in donations for bushfire relief aid. So in this image here, you see, it's particularly disturbing of this joey caught in a barbed wire fence. For many, it's devastating to see a joey or baby kangaroo having died in such a painful way. And it is quite painful to look at because, it really, sparks emotion in people. This visual went viral on social media and was very moving for people. In response, many people wished to donate. And this image was used by many organizations to raise money for bushfire relief. Millions of dollars were managed to be raised. So, from something terrible, something good has come along. Here, you see an injured koala seemingly mourning its deceased smaller companion. So this is yet another viral image that instigated an intense emotional response and persuaded viewers into wanting to help some way. As I researched this image, there are actually a few others that were provided. Unfortunately, as the people, because this was on Kangaroo Island, which is, as you can see, it's a place of unique biodiversity. It's essentially been untouched by invasive species, both plant and animal. So it kind of it's kind of like its own little Australia that's been unmarred by anything else, which is fantastic until this situation happened. And a lot of the people, hi, do you want to grab him? He's been making many appearances.
No, no problem. He's gonna be the star of the show.
He is the star. Thank you. Okay, so where was I? So I was talking about Kangaroo Island. So Kangaroo Island, like I said, it's a place of unique biodiversity. So it had a large portion of Australia's koalas population, and with the burning of the forests, it killed approximately 30,000 koalas. And you know, they were already an endangered species, and so it is quite disturbing to come across a scene like this. They had people from you know, various organizations coming in trying to help rescue as many koalas as they could, and unfortunately the scene that we're seeing wasn't unusual. It was just one of the many scenes that they were able to capture. Many animals were so exhausted and injured that they just sat there where they were, given up, you know, because they had no more energy to try and save themselves. And while it looks like this koala is mourning this smaller koala, and it could very well be, we don't know, it's just another glimpse into the realities of what was happening over there. Yeah, it's obviously quite sad as well. So this image afforded those around the globe another glimpse into the terrible effects of the bushfires and garnered worldwide support. Here I've written that there was approximately 1.5 million was raised. I am corrected. It was actually about 3.8 million from collective GoFundMe pages. All right, so this so in my research paper, I've got stills of this video, but I think it's really important for people to see the video, and to it really just brings it more to life. So this visual is particularly powerful as it shows a woman running into a smoldering bushland to save a burned koala climbing further into the flames. She takes her shirt off her back and wraps the koala in it to extinguish the fire and rescue him. The rest of the video depicts Mrs. and Mr. Doherty trying to give the koala water and leaving to bring him to the Port Macquarie Koala Hospital. As this video went viral on social media and circled through many news media outlets and around the globe, locals and people internationally wished to donate because they wanted to help. And many of those donations were directed to the Port Macquarie Koala Hospital, and they raised around $7 million, which is just amazing. And I can go ahead and click this video. Okay.
Sure.
Can you move back?
Just careful his claws.
Can you take him? Oh, it's on fire. Can you get water out of my car?
Yeah, we got water.
Thank
We got
you.
heaps of
In
water.
there, and then some in the front.
Good. Oh, careful. You want to put him in the blanket and bring him out of the hot stuff?
Come up.
Yeah, do you want a hand? Yeah.
You pick him up. Come on. take him to the koala.
Is there one nearby? Is there one nearby?
Important part.
He was crying like a baby.
I know, it's so hard to hear, you know. So that's pretty much, you know, they're hopping into their car and
Right. Right.
going their way.
I have seen this video before. It was all over the news.
It was, and you know, it was a fantastic way to, you know, really show people what's going on, because moving into a video and hearing a koala in that state, I mean, you don't hear that. It's not something that koalas are very quiet for the most part, unless you're walking through the forest and you cross it, a male one, when it's trying to get to another tree, then it'll shout at you. But that doesn't happen very often. So
Right.
It's very rare to hear a koala in that sort of state. And it's obviously quite sad to see that. But the fact that this video went around and was so viral, it brought in so much donations and aid for koalas at least, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Yeah, we got.
Ooh, okay, here we go. All right. So why visuals are so effective? So visual media enhances a person's perception of the information being conveyed. The audience is much more likely and willing to receive visual information than just text-based knowledge. People prefer hands-on learning, which includes visual and audio information. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words a little bit. So visuals create a more holistic or multi-dimensional approach to communicating information. And these visuals went viral on social media and afforded the opportunity for people to feel like they were helping by donating and sharing information. This communication process helped people stay in two-way communication with organizations receiving the donations, and the donators were able to see where their aid was being utilized. We're not saying bye, which continued to strengthen the connection between the organizations and the donators. Yes, I know. Hello. Yeah. Okay. So, although there isn't much written here about the ecological and environmental effect, it is vast and it is intense. So, hey, Dominic, can you go see Dad, please? Okay. So once again, an estimated 1.5 billion animals perished in the disaster, and 8.5 or more, a million hectares of land was burned. And to give you an idea of, okay, we can go see Dad.
Okay.
All right. So the Australian bushfires were astronomically larger than the fires that you saw in the rainforest in the Amazon and in the California wildfires. A lot of people were absolutely shocked to see how intense those fires were, and the Australian ones were. Sorry, I've got a cat here too who's like trying to be involved as well.
We have a big family.
Yes, so we've got lots of cats and a child. So yeah, they were much larger than the ones that we were already familiar with. So just to put that in perspective a little bit. So scientists and ecologists fear that some of the indigenous endangered species have been completely eliminated, and that includes invertebrate, bugs and other small marsupials, things like that. So which is obviously not good, but they can't know for sure yet because they're still recovering from the the damage. And then on top of that, now we're having this whole pandemic thing, so a lot of things have been halted, unfortunately, but hopefully we'll find out more in the near future. So many of Australia's indigenous species habitats and food sources have been destroyed, so an intense recovery process is required, and continued support for the animals is necessary for their survival. So As you can see, we've got a little wallaby in this, or is it a paddy melon? I'm not sure. It's either a wallaby or a paddy melon, and they're giving it carrots because it needs food and it's not going to find any, so we need to help them. Okay, so here we're talking about the local and global response. The local response was absolutely incredible. Many Australians banded together to help one another during this time of crisis. People were offering accommodation, food, medicine, and funds for those affected by the bushfires. This Find a Bed campaign was enacted. This started almost accidentally. A woman posted up on Twitter saying, you know, I've got some extra paddocks. If you've got, you know, cattle or horses, you know, or, you know, livestock, I can give you a place to stay. And people were so impressed by this that she started the Find a Bed campaign. And many people were involved in providing spaces for people, especially those with larger animals or many animals. And the idea was to either give them a place to rest in the meantime or a place to stay until they could find, you know, alternative situations. Another campaign that started was by Celeste Barber, and a lot of people are familiar with her. She's a goofy comedian on Instagram, and she's done a comedy tour throughout the United States, and she used her platform through Instagram to plead to people to ask them to please help. She shared an image of her mother-in-law's living room, where you can see it's like got an orange glow coming through the windows, and this was so successful. She raised like upwards of $25 million for bushfire aid relief, and it was just really great to see so many people around the world wanting to help. And many public figures from around the world shared information on their social media platforms, pledging support, pledging donations, and asking people to please join them, that any little bit matters. Okay. So the World Wildlife Fund created the campaign called 2 Billion Trees to try and recover the native forests and woodlands. I know that this campaign is something that they're doing for various places around the world, but I think that they're concentrating on Australia right now, just with so many of the trees being burned and gone, and they want to try and recover the native wildlife and habitat. So that's another incredible campaign that came out of this. The Australian government and nations from around the world sent in firefighters and military to help fight against the blazes. And the nations from around the world pledged their support to aid Australia. So whether they were sending over military aircrafts to help drop water or fire retardant, or if they were sending over firefighters, army people, soldiers, people from the Navy to help with, you know, recovery and help organization and stuff like that. So these nations included the United States, Canada, New Zealand, and those were three of the main countries to come in and really help. Papua New Guinea, Indonesia, Japan, France, Malaysia, Singapore, the Netherlands, Turkey, and the Philippines were all pledging their support, which is just unbelievably incredible. So you know, as we move on, I think it's really important to talk about the Indigenous people and their relationship with fire. A lot of Indigenous people, you know, their ritual and their connection with the land very much is involved with fire. They would do dancing around the fire. They would tell the story of their ancestors around the fire. They would use fire to help care for the land. So it's very much a part of their ancient practices. So, you know, we have an opportunity here to really utilize their traditional knowledge and help better care for the land. So, as this says, you know, many Indigenous people are still quite outraged that the bushfires were so extreme. The Aboriginal people believe that the traditional and ancient fire management methods and cool burning, or cultural burning as they call it, this could have been prevented. So, and we'll go further into what cool burning and cultural burning means in a minute. So fire management, again, is part of their caring for the land. So if you care for the land, then you're caring for yourself, because they believe in that land spirit connection. And then many people have called for the Australian government to utilize these traditional methods to save the land from repeating another bushfire disaster. So ideally with these methods, we wouldn't be having such extreme bushfires. The Aboriginal people, through Australian Aboriginal people, have been heavily utilizing social media to connect with their culture with younger Indigenous generations, as well as Indigenous people throughout the world, and with people throughout the world that are interested in their culture. And they were able to use this to spread awareness of the fires and what the significance of the land is to them. And they want to be able to display the disconnect that people are having with the land, and bring to light that traditional fire management could really, really help. So I have 2 videos here that I think are extremely beneficial into understanding what cultural burning is. And I will press play on that.
But we're not going to watch all 11 minutes, right?
Yeah, no. Just to get an idea, and then if people feel like they want to watch this in their own time, then they're welcome to. It's beneficial and very, very interesting.
The fear of fire comes from detaching yourself from the landscape. And the fear of fire comes from taking people out of the landscape. You know, I've been to a lot of country that's been like totally incinerated through wildfires and bad fires. And going through Tathra wasn't anything different to many other places I've been to. Not one green leaf left on the trees, no grasses, no sounds of birds. Just a total barren space that once was life. And so going into those places breaks my heart, because we know that that shouldn't be happening. And we know that we can prevent it if we look after the land.
Well, today we're out here doing a cultural burn at Wallygoot, not far from Tathra. With a cultural burn, it's a lot cooler than a hazard reduction burn. Hazard reduction burn does more damage to the ground and the land than good, really. But with this cool burn, we're going to see some nice regrowth of little herbs and grasses. Mainly, we want to get them grasses back here. With this soil, we call it sand-ridge country. When burnt right, you're going to get a lot of bush tucker and medicine plants come back through this sandy soil. If it's too hot...
So I could probably stop there and just, so it just gives you a little idea of what they're talking about. So with these cool burns or cultural burns, the idea is to help the landscape instead of just fully burning the landscape. So by doing these small burns, it allows the plants to come back quickly, and it makes it so that the animals aren't losing their habitats. So,
but the important thing is they're starting these burns maybe when it's still a little cooler, or not everything is dry yet.
Yeah, exactly. So there was another video that I saw about, you know, Indigenous fire management, and they were saying that the best time to do it is the very end of the wet season. So the plants aren't fully dried out, and to do it at nighttime. So they would do these small burns during nighttime, and they would know that the fire was staying cool because it wouldn't come up above their knees. If it went any higher than their knees, and they knew that the fires were getting too hot and they would need to put them out.
Right.
So
And
really,
maybe they are choosing days that are not windy.
yeah, exactly. And it's all about understanding the land, and I think that's something that a lot of developed or Western people are forgetting about, is understanding the land, you know, understanding the way that the land moves, the way that it grows, everything like that.
Okay.
There was another video that I had
So
here.
that's under the in.
Sorry. So there was another video here, and this video discusses traditional fire management and how to keep the land healthy, and that there's an Aboriginal man, he's an ecologist living in Northern Australia, and he's working with the Australian government to do more cool burns in efforts to lower Australia's carbon emissions. And it's just really amazing that the Australian government has acknowledged that traditional fire management that is taught by the Aboriginals is so much better for the environment and can actually help Australia lower their carbon emissions by doing so. So the Australian government has funded this research with the plans to bring down their emission output. Do you want me to show you the video, or should I just let it?
Maybe just explain it a little bit if it's too long.
Okay, yeah. How long does it go for? Let me just have a look real quick. It's 5 minutes, so.
Okay.
All right. So basically, this video discusses how even Aboriginal people have come to the acknowledgement over, like, from their ancestors, that they're not even taking care of the land like they used to, and that it's, you know, up to them to honor their ancestors and honor the future generations by taking the care of the land with their ancient practices. And you know, they've been aware that, you know, the climate has been changing for a very, very long time, and you know, it's up to us all to collaborate to do better and to help help the world, like, you know, like everybody to help each other. You know, this is an opportunity that we can learn these ancient tools and, you know, apply them to modern problems, you know.
Right.
But if anybody is watching this, I would highly recommend watching this video as well as the other one, just to get more understanding of what these fires really mean.
Sure.
You get to hear some didgeridoo, which is pretty
Right.
cool. Oh, okay. So, is there hope? Yes, there's hope. But for Australia, but the recovery process will be lengthy and arduous. Life has started returning to the land, which is incredible. Seeing all these buds coming out of the blackened landscape. This disaster event led to community connections, global community connections, and local, through the power of social media and visuals. So we can really see how, you know, through an event like this has connected so many more people on the global scale. So it's really just an amazing opportunity that we've had here to be able to connect with each other and help one another. And you know, we must use this disaster event as an opportunity to reconnect with the land and respect the environment. And with that respect, you know, comes with taking better care of it. And that comes down to each and every individual, you know. And then on this last page here is just, you can see these plants growing out of the bark that's been burned. This is like little hints of life that's coming back. So yeah, thank you. That's the
No,
end.
thank
It
you.
was long. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. I know that every time we do this, each of the students is trying to explain as much as possible, because it's a personal experience, it's a personal
Yeah.
research, and you are also tied to those places
Yeah.
by your birth, and you know them personally, and so on and so forth. So I thank you for this presentation, and I wanted to ask you, the trend in Australia actually has been to have less and less rain and more high temperatures.
Yeah.
Right. So in the past year, there was some rain.
So after the bushfires that happened, apparently they had quite like some torrential rain. So it was one extreme to the other.
Right.
And
I guess all that smoke in the atmosphere coagulates in the clouds with you know, something that is colder and forms clouds and then rain.
yeah, I would suppose so. But they, you know, even though we had this, you know, rain after the fires, they still want us to not feel comfortable just because we did have rain. It's still not enough. You know, I speak to my dad and my grandpa. My grandpa always loves to tell me about how much water that they've gotten. He's got a little rain gauge in his backyard, and he'll always, oh, we've gotten this many millimeters. And he's very much up there. Well, I grew up on a plant nursery when I was a child, so knowing how much rainfall was coming was very, very important so the plants would survive. So it was very much in their nature to keep me updated on how much rain has been coming. And, you know, it is trending hotter and hotter every year. And, you know, unless something changes, then it's going to keep getting hotter and hotter, and these fires are going to be getting more out of control.
Right, right. Because of these events, how was you? I understand, and it's heartbreaking to hear that more than 1 billion animals died.
Yeah.
But this kind of burning, did they provoke some kind of a flight of the human population or not out of Australia?
Yeah, so a lot of people were displaced from their homes. Is that's what you mean? Yeah.
But I mean, did they leave Australia altogether or just moved to places that were greener?
I don't know of people actually fleeing Australia. I just know of them fleeing the areas that they were in. So
Right.
A lot of people, as far as I'm aware, plan to, you know, escape the bushfire zones, but had very much had plans to go back to where they were. Though a lot of people are more aware that they need to be more careful and have better bushfire escape routes. They also need to start. It's suggested to, like, if you're going to be planting plants, you need to move them further away from your home. So a lot of people would, like, you know, want to have a nice garden and all these things, but some of these plants are very combustible. So they need to either not plant them or move them further away from their home so they don't ignite and set their houses on fire,
Right.
you know? Yeah.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Actually, I wanted to mention at the end for maybe other students from the International Studies program who will prepare in future semesters for their ACS 499 senior assignment experience, that you chose this research project that was in tune with the specialization that you chose with communication. Together, actually, first you had the research paper, which is quite large. I think it was like around 30 pages, right, or more.
Yeah, something like that.
No. That's very good. That's very good. And I like very much because it's also my preoccupation with visual campaigns. You inserted in your research paper a lot of these images. So it looks very nice. And then you did this PowerPoint presentation and kind of defended your research. You did this oral presentation. So this is what other students should expect in the future in ACS 499. Find a mentor at the beginning of the semester. It doesn't have to be the director of the program, but in your case, it just was a fit because I'm also a professor of public relations and communication. But most of other students, you know, depending on their specialization, find a mentor who guides them through a program of research. I follow up with them, kind of pushing them, hey, by this deadline, give me an idea. By this deadline, give me a structure of the future project. By this deadline, have part of the research, and so on and so forth, until a presentation like this is finalized in 16 weeks. So thank you very much. I will save this video and post it on YouTube, and then maybe with your permission, I can put the link on our website.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Sure.
Do whatever you like. Thank you so much.
Okay,
Thank you for being my mentor.
I had fun with your team of collaborators today, in the background and in the foreground.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.